Now, did we remember to record it?
Oh my God.
Why don't we just start with your perspective on franchise finance and how maybe someone can first attack getting to understand what they should be looking at when they're opening up a new franchise unit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's sort of always sort of two groups that we have to think about. Large, sophisticated franchisees are still leveraging. They're not writing cash from their reserves. They reserve their cash for emergencies or long-term, sustainability. So they're leveraging, and they may be using different vehicles to do that. But anything from a single to a 5-unit franchisee should be taking advantage of those types of programs and opportunities. Obviously, first timers or early new to the type of business is a little bit more difficult, but there's programs out there. Obviously, the SBA, when the U.S. government's open and working, is a lever. We've long worked with a outside agency that provides a service to make that a easy to navigate process called Benetrends. It's just one of our vendors that we've had a long-term, really high success rate relationship with. So I think new franchisees may not understand that. And I think sometimes franchisors overlook that sort of service model or that having that solution. An example is that we have a great relationship with our insurance partner, and we recommend them to every franchisee. I don't know if any of them have ever taken us up on it, but it's sort of our duty to say, hey, we're supposed to have solved all these things for you. And insurance, finance, and other things are all part of that. And so I think some, especially newer franchisors or smaller franchisors, might overlook that. So I think it's an opportunity to sort of call that out and say, hey, you really do have a responsibility to help your franchisees access these things. And the main reason is that those types of programs, they kind of require a pre-vetting of the brand. The brand has to be stable, and the brand has to have, financial, footing, and there has to be proof of capability of the franchisor to provide services to the franchisees. So we have to go through that vetting process first. And I don't think a lot of folks know that either, right? They just start recommending places and these brokers or these services, and they're like, oh, hold on, we have to go figure out if this brand is backable.
Yeah.
Will a underwriter, give you a loan or do an SBA underwriting, et cetera. So I think it's overlooked or not often talked about. So I appreciate that you guys are bringing that question to the table.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from our experience in the franchise world, there's so many great operators who may have come from a different business industry or are going to be great operators. But some of those first initial hurdles are, okay, how do I take my previous experience in, maybe it was consulting or banking, whatever it is, and then go, okay, what questions do I need to ask here? Well, that usually starts with finance. We're seeing the best successful operators are saying, hey, how can I get the best SBA loan? How can I go through that process? How can it not take me 2 years to close on this and actually find financing? So what we see is when we're able to work with a franchisor who's helping their units, like, okay, this is how you're going to go about it. You might be great at everything else, but let us help you here, becomes a really big asset. I know we skipped over it, and apologies, but for those who might not know your kind of background on things, from your brand's perspective, like, you want to kind of give it just a high level overview of what you're doing and maybe a little bit about your background kind of coming into this brand?
Yeah. So I've been in the restaurant industry 33 years. I actually started as a chef, got my business degree and found myself to the front of the house. I've worked in fine dining restaurants, ultra luxury hotels, Caribbean resorts, all mechanisms of hospitality. And in 2015 started really focusing on emerging brand scaling and support, and have a hospitality company before this role that helped leverage and scale emerging brands, really solve all these problems in advance with them, which put me in a great position to be on the franchisor side, understanding what these young emerging either brands or franchisees need. Came to Pepper Lunch in February of 2023 at the moment where they were ready to invest and push growth at scale across not only North America and the Western Hemisphere, but really accelerate growth worldwide. And so we've been building infrastructure and establishing all of the systems and relationships and processes, and finance and insurance and supply chain, and all these things are a part of that recipe of success. And yeah, when I joined the company in February of 23, we had 369 global stores in 15 countries. Today, we have 551 in 17 countries, and we are about to build the infrastructure and systems to afford our ability to launch in several new countries over the next 2 to 3 years. So we're on a fast-paced growth trajectory across the globe for the brand, and it's an exciting ride, and I've got a great opportunity to lead a lot of that work and continue every day.
Yeah. I think it's so amazing. And there's one thing that you said in there that really jumped off to me, which was like that background of culinary school and working in that industry. From now on the more corporate side of things, bringing that into working across, multiple different nations, and obviously at Pepper Lunch and Hot Palate, how do you think about taking that culinary experience into now more of this kind of C-suite role, not only from a day-to-day operations perspective of your own, but also how you help franchisees? How do those kind of three things kind of coincide for you?
Yeah, lucky for me, I'm really well aligned with my global team and my leadership and my boss as well, who comes from a background of scaling brands as well, in that nothing's more important than every single plate. Right. And so having that background allows me not only to appreciate and understand whether we're executing as expected on every plate, but when we're thinking about new supply chain purveyors or new product development, or looking back and analyzing whether our menu today is resonating and making sense and meeting the needs of the consumer, having that culinary background just allows me to really understand all of the components that go into the end product. And so it's been very, very helpful, particularly in talking to suppliers and understanding the nuances of ingredient differences. Where the ingredient comes from changes the profile. So you can have garlic from 4 different regions and they're all going to taste different. So how does that affect the end product is important as well. So it's been immensely helpful.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but because you're working across so many different countries and different regions, creating consistency in your product, I'm sure, is going to be something that's top of mind. Did you find that understanding flavor profiles and supply chain from the chef background helped you kind of bring that into? It sounded like it does, but
yeah,
you could elaborate.
It does, because it also allows you to share the language with the vendor who's supplying those ingredients. It's almost always a chef on the other end.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're telling you all the things about it and what about it makes it different. And you're trying to explain or share like a legacy recipe.
Yeah.
And say, look, we're really trying to match this flavor profile. But, we do a tremendous amount of internal tasting, tasting with our franchisees, tasting with our consumers, to blind taste and educationally taste, and make sure that just because we've done it that way for 31 years, is that profile, is that flavor resonating? And as we go to new countries, we want to remain authentic and consistent to our brand and have as much of that uniformity as possible. But taste profiles in different countries are different things. And so we're going to be growing to Europe next. And so we have to really think about that, because Europe is not one country, right? Europe's a continent of many countries and many cultures. And their cuisines, 10 miles away are completely different from each other. In the United States, we have a handful of regions and the flavors change across those regions. But generally in the United States, most of the food is understood, and we have that in Asia too. About 20% of our menu outside of Japan, 20% of our menu is essentially localized or regionalized. And so if you go to the Philippines, you're going to find a lot more like sauces and gravies and cheese-laden dishes, because that's what that demographic is used to, calls for, likes, etc. So we're not Asian fusion. We are holistically and completely Japanese. But because we've been in every Asian nation for so many years, we're able to modify and pay homage and meet that consumer where they are without leaving our core, value and our purpose. But at the end of the day, I think one of the most important words for anybody listening is consistency. Pick your lane, be consistent. And for us, we're maniacal about that, truly maniacal about that. We cannot go to any or be near any one of our restaurants that we don't go in and check and taste. We confirm the products are the correct products. The spec is the correct spec. They haven't defrosted something too soon or too late. And we get a lot of feedback. So we really rely on that to keep consistency.
How do you sort of blend that with franchise model where you sort of have an owner operator there that's at the store with obviously you supporting them with finance and insurance and other products, obviously created the experience around it. How do you sort of blend these sort of relationship with franchisees that you have right now?
Yeah. So for us, we really believe in staying very close to our franchisees. We have a partnership model, not a authoritarian model. We make it very clear that everything's mandated, everything's done a certain way. We train you extensively on our process and our system, and we oversee and confirm all those products are being maintained. But when we spend time with them and when we spend time in their stores, it's not from a looking over your shoulder, breathing down your neck. It's from a explaining that this consistency will equal success, and that staying focused on everything from what you buy, how you defrost, or how you prepare, or how you build it, how you even deliver it, right? If it sits in the window too long, don't take it to the table, remake the It takes 90 seconds, remake the dish, because the experience at the table has to be consistent for the consumer. Yeah. And so we really just sort of take this hand-in-hand friendly approach, friendly but firm approach. But it's important because we're 31 years old and people have experienced our brand all over the world. Yeah. It is very, very common for me to be in a restaurant and have guests who have been to Pepper Lunch in 5 countries. Yeah. One of the remarkable feedback statements we get is, "Oh, it's just as I remember it." Yeah. Oh my God, that's the best thing you could say to me. That's cool. Because we do our best, right? Yeah. But ultimately that leads to financial success and puts you in a better position or more resilient position long term. Yeah.
How do you scale that? Right? Obviously, you have a ton of locations worldwide. That's tons of complexity there. But even within the US, like taking that from starting from 0 all the way up to 200 stores. Yeah. And you're in growth mode right now. How do you scale that concept? And maybe there's a lot of learnings from the rest of the countries, but
we invest ahead in support. We have a global support system. So we have 5 offices around the world. We have over 230 corporate support team members around the world. And we don't, as an example, the US doesn't just do it on its own. Right. Our QA/QC comes from Singapore, and our other global heads from other countries come over and spend time. We spend time with them, making sure we're always aligned and focused. So we're lucky to have this large back end that supports us, but you have to invest ahead. That's really the message, is you have to hire and set up those systems. Now, look, we have legacy systems, let's just call it paper manuals, that have been digitized, but the checklists are now digitized, and technology has put us in this position. Technology gives the franchisee and the franchisor data, gives us a feedback loop that is live, in moment, real, and it's not just reviews, it's active surveys asking different questions, different types of questions at different times. So we have a lot of technology deployed to listen and ask and capture insights, not just in sales or sales mix or average check, but across the entire ecosystem at all points of contact. Yeah. We also take a tremendous amount of feedback from our franchisee operators, the managers in the store. Yeah. If they are seeing or hearing something, it could be a hyper localized thing. Right. We have to respond. We have to pay attention. We have to listen. We can't discount and say, "Oh, that's an anomaly in one store." Yeah. So again, it's communication. It's having systems and tools in place to scale that awareness. Yeah. And then, investing in the people and processes to utilize that data, not just have it sort of land on in a bulk bin somewhere that nobody ever looks at it. So I have somebody whose entire job is to monitor that data and report to me on a weekly basis. But we have all kinds of aggregated flash reports and things to try to make sure we always have our finger on the consumer. Yeah. And we definitely have a good communication line with our franchisees at all levels. Yeah.
That's right. It's funny because it's kind of a simple business, right? You have to have a great plate, consistent experience, and then all the stuff behind it is so complex.
There's a lot of work.
Tons of work. And I think many people don't realize
nobody's sitting on the beach over here collecting royalties, I assure you.
I had a quick question regarding, for a brand that's growing, and especially growing out of maybe one territory into a space where maybe they can't drive to other locations anymore. It seems like consistency is really that backbone, not only for your guys from a growth perspective, but also pride. right? Like that ability that I can go around the world and have a flavor that is, maybe it's been adjusted a little bit in certain ways on certain menu items, but it's got that core same, essence that would have anywhere else. If you were going to give a piece of advice to an emerging brand that's getting out of just that one regional area and say, hey, you should invest in one tool, one idea, one concept that will help you tie that consistency together, is there anything that comes to mind for you like that?
People who know me and listen to me on a lot of things are going to get kind of tired of me saying it, but it is one of the most important tools we use today. It's Momos. It's a reputation sentiment management tool. We've deployed it globally now. We're rolling it out to the rest of our countries. We've been using it in the US, Canada, and in Singapore for the last number of, year and a half or so. We've been rolling it out to new countries, not only corporate stores, but also now our large franchisees. Just having the ability to listen. You cannot overstate the importance. And again, down to the individual store employee call out, good or bad, right? Positive or negative, to the changing sentiment around value proposition or taste profile change or portion, et cetera. You can find micro trends much quicker with tools like this. And it's not the only one we deploy several, but it is one for us that gives us real actionable intelligence. And so every country head and operations team in every country is monitoring that system. In the US, I have somebody who monitors that system. I get the reports, flash reports weekly that I definitely will dig in. More importantly for me is it doesn't just take feedback and then aggregate sentiment. It actually helps you understand the demographics too, right? Women between X age and X age are saying this, but women between this age and this age, or university students versus moms are saying this. Moms have a different thing. They got kids coming with them to a pepper lunch. How are we working to solve and make that a more comfortable and inviting and first choice experience? So that sort of environment, those types of tools put us in a position to not follow on what has already happened, but start to be able to understand in real time where we need to focus or think about or areas of concern. And it's very actionable. We're launching a kids menu in the United States next month as a result. And what that portion looks like and what options are within that, we're driven by our consumers' responses and feedback. So you just can't make decisions high in a castle in a glass corner unit with clean glass. You have to have true opportunity. You have to really listen at the end of the day.
I think one thing I've learned from either talking to you or seeing the other content that you've put out is an akin focus on that customer experience. And you said something earlier about micro trends. How quick are you to invest in a micro trend that you're seeing? And what does that initial investment look like?
Well, I don't think we're there to be super reactive in short time. We're not Wendy's with a 6-person team who only watches the internet all day. They have 6 humans whose entire job is to watch the internet and respond as a person. Right, we're not there yet. And with a legacy brand, you do have to be careful and thoughtful. From a marketing, social media, communications, joining on a conversation, I think we're going to be easier to get to that quicker. But when it comes to our food, I'm not interested in trends. I'm interested in a generation. So, Asian food and culture, and predominantly culture, but food as a genre in the United States, we're about to go into our 7th year where Asian food is the fastest growing genre of food in the United States. I know that's not teppanyaki that's driving that. I know that it's Korean barbecue and ramen. Got it. But I also know that sushi is so ubiquitous that, there's 3 companies in the United States that represent something like 50,000 locations that in grocery stores alone that serve gajillions of dollars of grocery store sushi. I had no idea so many people ate grocery store sushi, but between Whole Foods and all of them. But so for us, we are protective. But I will say this, we do a lot of innovation testing. We do it in silos by regionality, but then we come together and I look and say, oh, that's a really interesting dish. I think that dish could resonate with the Western audience in the United States. We could pay homage to Taiwan or Taipei or Vietnam. We could bring that to the US and try it. In parts of Asia, our Pepper Lunch brand promise is that we're halal certified. Anywhere we call Pepper Lunch. We actually have another brand called Pepper Kitchen to provide the same type menu in environments where we can't be halal certified. That's how serious we are about making that brand promise, but we don't have that brand promise available in the United States. And so that opens up the potential for use of pork. Right. So China uses pork, Japan has the opportunity to use pork. How can we consider a pork product here in the United States? And so we're not super fast on that side, but I think it's a scale. I think depending on what that trend is, I do look for a little bit of sustainability. Like when I say generational, Gen Z is one of the biggest drivers of share of wallet or spend of food away from home today. They're the ones telling the household what we're eating tonight, right? Gen Alpha is coming into that age today. So we have to understand how their interests and taste profiles and desires for healthfulness or whatever that is are changing. We have to think ahead and watch that. And so we do a lot of testing. We have an innovation center in Singapore. We just eat a lot of darn food. And and then we have the freedom on a regional basis to sort of plug into that and say, hey, I'm going to adopt that. That's an interesting idea for us.
Yeah. It seems like from an investment perspective, it all comes back to consistency.
Yeah.
Right. So consistency of product, consistency of brand, consistently, honoring the homage of what your brand is and where it will go to, where it's come from, which to me is really interesting because it means that you need to make tough decisions to really keep that brand tight. Something that might be difficult now, but in the future, it'll make it more successful. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for doing this with us. Is there anyone else you think we should be having a conversation like this with? And I would love to speak with them given the opportunity.
Yeah, there's plenty of people. I mean, I think if I'm thinking of anybody from the financial perspective that's really plugged in, I would say Jim Bayless of Capital Spring, somebody that might not be on your radar that's really dialed in on sort of the financial and operational marriage of a brand is Jason Morgan from Original Chop Shop. I'll make an introduction there if you don't know him. But yeah, there's some great leaders in the space that I think have a real clear understanding about how finance and operations and marketing and all these things come together. But to your point, I think people are either afraid to talk about the financial components of this business, or they just don't understand it. It's such a specialized thing. They've always relied on that fractional CFO, outsourced kind of environment. But it is, at the end of the day, it comes down to economics. It comes down to dollars. And if the dollars don't make sense, the business is not going to have an opportunity to exist and grow. So I appreciate you guys focusing on that area of the business.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Yeah.